Hey everyone, today we're going to talk about growth mindset and leadership, something I really, really love to talk about. Welcome to Invincible Innovation Live Show. I'm so glad that you're here. I'm Mazor, Kario, innovation and value creation expert, and I'll be your host. And today with me, I have Sam Harris. Hi, Sam.
Good morning.
Great to see you. Sam is the co-founder of Syncify. Did I say it okay?
Yeah,
Syncify?
you did. Syncify.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's a good
Yeah.
start. We're live on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook, and you're much invited to join the discussion and ask questions. And now we could start. First, could you define growth mindset as you see it? Good
Yes,
start.
I always forget how to do this, even though like it's what I talk about all the time. But growth mindset is basically not having any self-limiting beliefs on things and just being willing to kind of try like harder or in different ways to kind of reach a goal above what you're currently able to do and just constantly kind of pushing to like achieve more and not be like, oh, I'm bad at maths, so I'm never going to do this. Like you can just find different ways to like reach a goal and just always be open to growth opportunities and like being humble about them and not thinking that you're the best. So
Yeah.
it's a mix of things.
Yeah. So do you believe it's like part of your life right now after 4 years of talking about growth mindset?
Yeah, I've always enjoyed self-improvement and been open to those things, but it's definitely become a much bigger core part of me around like sort of whatever there is where I'm like, oh, this is like a slightly limiting belief. This is an opportunity to grow. And I'm like a bit more excited about it. And it's just sort of like if I'm bad at stuff, I get like super excited as opposed to being like, oh, I'm bad at this. It's like, ooh, opportunities. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's definitely changed my framing of it.
Yeah, of course. And I think it made your life easier because if you see an obstacle and you see that's an opportunity or that's feedback from whoever is telling me to do things different, it makes your life easier, I guess, or not.
Yeah, definitely. And you certainly don't take things so personally when people, even if they're like a bit shitty about it, they give you bad feedback. You're still like, well, cool. That's nice. Good to know.
Yeah.
Which is super handy because otherwise you can kind of get bogged down by like your failures
Yeah.
or the way people like tell you about stuff.
Yeah. And the fact that you're growing, even if sometimes it looks like you're losing or failing, you're still growing as a person. I
Yeah,
think
definitely.
it gives
There's
you
like
a better sense of, well-being, I would say.
yeah, and I think it also in general in terms of like success, uh when like you have like failures and things, you can say like, okay, I'm here, like my success is like here, whatever. You think your path is like straight, but actually it often like goes down more and then up and stuff. But you can kind of like enjoy like whatever the path it is for you and sort of be just happy that you're on the path rather than like expecting like, oh, I have to definitely take one step forward every single time, otherwise there's a problem. You're like, actually a step forward, maybe different directions, and but you're like happy that you're going there. So you can kind of ride the bottoms a lot easier. And
Yeah.
that's a
Yeah.
nice feeling.
Yeah, of course. I think it's something that is especially important these days because we know there are so many changes and sometimes it looks like it's changing for the worst and going down. And
Yeah,
you need to know it's part of the path, or maybe it's something
definitely.
that everybody needs to learn right now.
Yeah, so many things. Well, I mean, like just currently, like cryptocurrencies took off loads, and then they're sort of having like a massive dive at the moment. And like I was kind of in the scene back before the last takeoff, and like made lots of money, then lost it all, and was like, crap, I hate my life. Whereas now, like 3 years later, I've learned so much more that I made loads of money this time, and then haven't lost it all. And okay, so I wasn't ready to like actually make the most of it last time, but this time I sort of done a much better job, and that was life teaching me something that at the time I was like, crap, I really needed that then, but actually it's fine. And so it's kind of been quite a good opportunity to
Yeah.
actually like, yeah, life is long. All these things that happen to you are like just really useful lessons that like will come back.
Yeah, I guess that it helps you to be an entrepreneur, a better entrepreneur too, right? All
Mm,
the roller coasters, ups and downs is very, part
yeah,
of being an entrepreneur, right?
yeah, for sure. And a nice podcast to listen to the other day was about the data around billionaires. And in terms of billionaire founders, you kind of expect it to be sort of people who like had like the best education and those kind of things, or like you think of like Mark Zuckerberg or Bill Gates, who sort of like Steve Jobs that like went to these amazing unis and then dropped out or something. But actually, there's like very little correlation between um, like how educated you are or those sort of experiences. The only main thing is the amount of previous projects you've started. So even if you're at 18 and you start it, if you've like been starting things since you were 10 and like every few months doing a new thing, like you're much more likely than someone that's 50 who's never tried to start a business before to succeed. And so having like lots of failures isn't a bad thing. Like the more you learn and like the more that you sort of just keep on trying, like the more you get educated around like what works, what people are looking for, how to like run these things. So it's very motivating for when things go wrong. You'd be like, well, I'm one step closer to like being a
Yeah.
millionaire with my next idea.
Yeah,
So
I truly hope so.
yeah,
It's what Thomas Edison said. He said, "I didn't fail. I find 10,000 ways that doesn't work."
yeah, exactly. So
So you learn what
faster you
doesn't
can do
work
that, the
for
better.
you and in general.
Mm.
So if we could take the growth mindset into the business world, how could growth mindset help leaders?
Oh, it's hugely important because I don't think our education system really teaches you to be a leader that much. As in, I think the kids who are naturally good at sort of holding a room or something maybe end up being like rugby captains and that kind of stuff. But otherwise, there's not really that much for leadership. And you really have to learn it as you go along and be very humble and open to growth. And certainly like the founder to CEO journey is a very interesting thing. So like a founder is like someone that starts a business, calls himself CEO, but like it's like just him or her, and then like more people join the team or whatever. And then the person who's like running a company with like 100 people is like a massively different person. You've got a completely different role. So when you start, your measurement of success is like how much like work you get done in terms of like were you doing coding or were you doing like ads or whatever. It's like the amount of like hours you spend and stuff you produce. Whereas when you're running like 100 people, it's like how much help can you give the rest of your people to do that job and like create as much stuff. So you're doing a completely different role, and your things are changing every day. So you need to be super open to growth and learning stuff that you've never been taught before and getting the feedback from people. So having a growth mindset is like the only way you can really do that well. Otherwise, you're going to do the thing that you're good at first, and then you're never going to learn these other skills.
Of
And
course.
then if you have a growth, oh yeah, if you have a
No,
good growth
no.
mindset, it goes into everyone else around the company, and you want to be able to teach them to like be a leader of their own sort of thing, and then they can go into management as your company grows, etc. And it's pretty essential at a core.
Yeah. So if we're taking it to the corporate world with not
Mm,
100 employees to 10,000 employees or 100 employees, you
yeah,
could just imagine that if you have this kind of a machine that is run by you and you're one of the C-level, you will
yeah,
probably need it even much more, right? Because if
mm,
everything is working and you grew within this corporate from someone who was like middle management and went into the CEO level,
yeah,
so in that case, you're much more like sure of yourself, and
mm,
you have the credentials, right?
yeah.
So for you to change the way you think and to be innovative and creative and to think differently, it's so much harder than someone who is like, started not long ago.
Yeah, definitely. And that's like those are where the opportunities are to like come with different stuff. If you have exactly the same ideas and opinions of the people around you, you're not ever going to be able to add as much value as someone that sort of either has some different experiences or is open to like thinking very differently and can sort of cross pollinate like ideas and make different stuff happen and be open to like the future of change of what's going on in the actual world as opposed to just sort of doing more of exactly what's going on, because that's why like big companies die is they just keep on trying to do the thing that they're successful at, and they don't take the new opportunities, which is where like
Right.
the new startups come in and stuff. So yes, great point. I
Yeah.
like it.
Yeah. I think that when you're thinking about the only advantage that a startup or a very small company could have is growth mindset and being innovative and fast and changing fast. And this is something that is very hard for somebody who is very successful in a very successful corporate right now. That might change in 5 years, but right now you're very successful. So just to say, I might not know something, not saying like I don't know, that's like too much,
Mm,
but to really admit that there are some things that somebody, much younger than you with
yeah,
very less experience than you might know better than you. It's
definitely. It's part of like levels of maturity and vulnerability and being open to ideas and not expecting anything of where they should be coming from. And also, have you heard like the prevention versus promotion mindset?
No.
So that's like a really interesting concept around like basically sort of shooting to win versus shooting to not fail. And so the more you have, the more your like mindset is around not losing what you have. Whereas as a startup, you don't have anything. So you can just make crazy bets on like different new technologies or whatever, and like you really shoot to win. Whereas as a big company, you know, you've got like all your processes and standards, and you've got a product that works. You just want to keep on making as much money from that product as you can. And so you're kind of shooting to not fail, but keep on doing how you are doing. You're not trying to like 100x your like company in the next sort of year and stuff. And there's some interesting studies on science around like how this works. And if you look at people like when they're taking penalty shootouts, if they're like on the last shootout where they're kicking the ball to try and like not lose, they're much more likely to fail. Whereas like if they've got like to the final kick where like if they score, they're going to win. I think it's sort of 80% more likely that they're then going to win. Just because of like your mindset around like, cool, I'm doing it. This is like my moment. I'm going to be the winner. Whereas like if it's like, oh, this is all going to go wrong, you're kind of focusing on like things are going wrong and stuff. And yeah, it's very interesting the way your
It's
mind works.
interesting that the fact what you're saying about something which is personal as a person,
Yeah,
because I have something to lose. Maybe I have my own, like I'm very important in this company. I'm one of the C-level, or I have my own prestige, or I have money.
yeah,
I'm afraid to lose something that I
yeah,
own.
definitely.
And when you're young, you don't have that much that you could lose, and staying young in your mind is still growing, right? Is still learning, is
Yeah,
still
definitely. You
so.
never get fired by like suggesting, oh, let's do the same thing that worked and stuff. Whereas you're always risking something when you try and go for with some crazy ideas, and you're like, oh, let's do this like completely nuts thing that we've never done before as a company. Like that
Yeah.
could get you like losing your job, etc. if it doesn't work out. So
Yeah.
it's
Most
very hard.
people say you don't get fired for bringing EY to write your report or
Yeah,
something. Yeah, or
exactly.
Accenture.
Yeah,
Because like this is what we've done till now. Let's do it again. It worked till now. And I
yeah,
think that that's a really big problem. And if we're talking about what needs to be learned or maybe unlearned in some cases, is the fact that what has worked in the past, and it could be like decades, is not, you don't have any insurance for that it still will work. And then
yeah.
people need to think about themselves, like I was such a successful CEO till now, and like, they're more or less like 3 years 4 years until they go to another job, and
Mm.
they say, okay, why should I lose all the credentials that I have for trying something that's, maybe it's crazy to try something new, right?
Yeah, definitely.
And then it's like collapsing afterwards when it's not working anymore. Do you think that growth mindset is even more important right now after within the corona crisis, or it hasn't changed?
Uh, well, yeah, I guess it's probably more important in many ways. I mean, it's always pretty essential, but in terms of like self-limiting beliefs with the coronavirus going on, there's a lot of easy opportunities to be like, oh, things are difficult right now. And it's interesting. I mean, I'm an investor in quite a few different companies, and some like you see their reports where they're like, oh, it's such a difficult time, we're not doing these, and like they just are so negative. And that's like, oh, there's so much opportunity, like we're killing us, and they're like the same type of business doing the same sort of thing. And you're like, it's just the different people, sort of the way they see things. And when you see problems as opportunities, that's when like you make stuff. So it's certainly a bit of a leveler around many companies, and then like giving people who are more open to opportunity the opportunities to sort of make the most of it. And yeah, it's definitely keeps you a much
Yeah.
more positive framing of things.
Yeah, I think that McKinsey had a report saying that most C-level management say that it's going to be the most challenging time of their like career.
Yeah.
Although they really know that there are so many new opportunities growing from it. And most of them would say that they don't feel that they have enough, like the skills, the tools, and what's really needed in order to create this corporate change, innovation.
Mm.
This is what they would say. would you say that growth mindset is something that they should
Yeah,
learn? And
yeah, they should definitely be like adopting it because it's sort of, well, I guess the framework of like where your comfort zone is, and if you're always in your zone of comfort, you're like you're not really growing and stuff. And if you're like always sort of outside your zone of comfort, you're always like growing and learning. And this is definitely something that pushes you outside of your comfort zone, which is a great way for you to learn. Okay, this is how I go through like massive amounts of change. This is like a really chance to like show up as a leader and do something radical. And that's where like the good leaders are going to go with this. And people that are sort of like scared and like, oh, this is difficult, are going to not do well and not learn new skills. And this is like their moment to show up and actually do something cool. Like, take it.
yeah. And as you said, because they're so afraid to lose what they currently have, and they have a lot, in many cases, you see many leaders, maybe within tech, that they have this capability. Not many, but you see it more in tech leadership that said, okay, we founded a tech company, and more or less we're used to change because tech is moving fast. And sometimes you see it less in other places, or maybe it's less known, but I feel that in tech it's easier to do it.
I think it's a faster to like change and test your product without like, I mean, developers are super expensive, but you can still like put a new product online for free and sort of test it with a few group of audience, whereas it's a bit harder to like have a whole product line or whatever and like sort of get it through different systems to then sort of test it on audiences to then sort of see what's really working and stuff. So it's a bit harder to be that as swift, but just because something's a little bit harder doesn't mean that you should be limited by it. You can still like come up with ideas around not like just sticking with things as they are.
Yeah.
And I think it just gets talked about a bit more, as in like they're probably slightly better at marketing themselves and being like, hey, look at what we did, and sort of writing blogs about it and going on podcasts and things. So maybe we just hear more about it as well.
Yeah, I think that I read somewhere that we are sure that the most innovative companies are the ones who are B2C, because they're very known brands, and then we find them very innovative. And it makes sense because we know them, and they say, wow, this is what Apple did, or something like that.
Yeah.
So what is the most important element of success as you see it?
Well, it depends on how you define success, because you could say like Elon Musk's the most successful person, but like if he actually hates what he's doing the whole time but he just can't stop himself from doing it and isn't happy, then like he wouldn't be a very successful person, kind of thing. But I think the most important thing, it depends on achieving it or enjoying it. I would say it's sort of contentment and peace with what you have. And so, or same with like being wealthy, is that it's not like whether you've achieved X amount of millions and then suddenly you're then classed as wealthy. It's enjoying what you have and being able to sort of comfortably do those things and be spending less money than what you have coming in, ideally with that money coming in ways that like it's just sustainable, and that you're not like having to spend all your time on earning that money. And that is being wealthy. And so success, I think, it's getting to a point of wealth where you're using your time creatively to do the things that you want to do, and you're enjoying it. You're not like stressed out. You're not trying to do like 5 things in a day when you've only got time to do one. You're you know what your priorities are, and you're very good at sticking to them and enjoying like a good element of like time for your health, time for social stuff, time to challenge your brain and work on difficult things that excite you. When you're doing that, that's at that point you're successful, I'd say.
Yeah, but when we're saying growth mindset and being outside of your comfort zone, it's challenging what is your comfort zone all the time, and it's like, it's not like being comfortable actually with where you are, because you're growing all the time and trying new things and learning new things, and like it's like the opposite of being an entrepreneur, being relaxed, being like at ease.
I would say that I get more stressed out when I'm not under like stress, if I'm in my comfort zone, which is kind of good if you want to be constantly growing. It's not perfect if actually sometimes you now know that you're good at something, but you actually have to execute on that for 6 months before like the next sort of challenge in terms of like learning comes up or something. And that can be quite difficult of actually like being able to teach yourself to just stay put and be like, right, I've actually just got to deliver on this. Because if I'm like, oh, I've got like 5 different billion ideas that I want to go and like pursue and challenge myself on. So that can be limiting. But I think just contentment is a very hard thing to learn and not striving for stuff. So obviously, you need to have an ego, you need to have some like goals and wants in life, but also you need to be kind of stoic and not, your happiness doesn't need to depend on achieving those things. You need to be like happy in the moment and with the flow. And so as in like desire is a contract with yourself to being happy until you achieve something. And you should be achieving things for sure, but you should be able to be like content within your own self whether you achieve that thing.
Yeah.
So it's like holding two opposing concepts in your head at once is one of the levels of maturity that you need to sort of be able to reach, I think. And it's a
Yeah.
very hard one, but it's important.
Yeah, what you're saying is resonate with me when we're talking about leadership right now, because they need to operate what they're doing. Their company right now needs to be successful, and they have this other edge, this goal, this future, this
Yeah.
vision, and they need to hold both of them, the present and the future, in the same time. And they
Yeah.
need to be successful in both of them, and they're contradicting, right? Because what you will be is not what you are right now, and
Mm.
what is the potential of the company is not what they're doing right now.
Yeah.
And the option to hold these two in for a company and for yourself as a person is very challenging. And I feel this is part of what we need to learn on our path. And it could be in my career, it could be with my family life, it could be with my, what I'm doing is like holding these two parts of like, right now I'm content, this is what I want to stay here, I don't want to do
Yeah. Yeah.
anything, and I have this vision, I want to be there. There is, I don't know if you have it, but there is this I think it's from Sesame Street or something, that they have these two monsters, and one of them is like going to the other, and he says, I want to be there, I want to be there, and then he goes to the other direction, and then he goes like, I want to be there, like, he
Yeah.
always going to the other direction. And it
Yeah.
reminded me of the same thing, like you're always feeling like this is not exactly as you need to be, and you
Yeah.
could be
Yeah.
better, or grow or change or something.
Yeah. I think that's one of those things you sort of learn in life. Like I've been to some crazy places, and whenever you get there, it's not as amazing or as sane as you think it's going to be. And then you see so much stuff on Instagram of stuff looking like your life's going to be perfect when you get to Bali, and then like it's still, if you're ever doing anything, it's not that amazing because you're able to do it, kind of thing. It's never quite
Right.
got like the crazy music going on, and nothing's like perfectly cut together. Just like all like the 5 perfect moments that you have over like the entire week, because there's like the whole traveling and all that other stuff in between it. And it's the same with life success and anything that you're doing. It's sort of, there's always other things that seem more appealing at the time than wherever you are, and that's kind of something you got to like
Yeah.
deal with. And I think a concept I quite liked is just the term of stress. Like physically speaking, stress is when there's two sort of physical things that want to be in different locations, like opposing each other. And it's the same with like mental stress, as in it's when you want to be in two different places at once, or you're trying for different things, and you've got like two goals that don't align with each other. So simple option being like your friend invites you to a party, but you're already going to a different party that you kind of want to go to because you've said yes to it, but you don't want to go to it maybe as much as the other one. But then if you're going to the other one, you'd want to be going to the one that you are going to, and it just kind of stresses you out. And like you don't need that stress, but it's the same with wherever you're at. With like if you're running a business, you're like, oh, actually, wouldn't it be so cool if I was running this other type of business, or if I actually just worked for someone, because I'd have a reliable wage and I could just like chill out in the evening and have a weekend. And like whatever you're doing, there's always other things that you're not doing that are going to look nice. And
Yeah. And like could you tell us, when you wrote me the email that we could have a podcast together, you wrote me some of your achievements, and I was very
oh,
impressed.
yes.
So could you tell us some of them?
Well, I'm the burrito eating champion of Bristol. So that's a good start.
That's
Which,
impressive.
yeah, because I'm not like a big person,
No.
for sure. Like 5'6", but managed to halve the record there. That was a random one that I just took on as a challenge. It was something, like self-limiting beliefs. Is like, okay, I'm not like the right bodybuilder to like be a speed eater or anything. And was like, screw it, I'm gonna learn how to eat burritos as quickly as bloody possible, and then yeah, smash the
That's
record.
impressive.
Yeah, random one. I mean, I started my first business at 20 whilst I was at uni, which I sold after like 4 years, which was kind of lucky. At the time, I thought I knew what I was doing or something, but it was just sort of kind of different chances that sort of played out kind of okay. And then I went and failed at lots of different things afterwards and was like, oh, actually, I'm not like a complete genius. It just sort of worked out something that people wanted of my first go by accident, and it kind of ran itself. I mean, I hitchhiked across Kazakhstan. That was really fun.
Like
Just
Borat.
doing random things. Yeah, yeah, but they hate Borat. They
Yeah, I
literally,
know.
you mention the word, they go nuts. Like, oh, this guy's the worst person ever in the world. We're not like him. And it was interesting because they don't actually look that much like they do in Borat. Like they're somewhere between Chinese and Russian, which
Yeah.
yeah, it was kind of funny to go there and be like, wow, this is so different because of Borat. Like they look more kind of like people do in sort of the Middle East, rather than
Yeah.
Kazakhstan, which is like, I guess Middle East, but like a different part of Middle East to what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
the way people were and how they spoke and everything was quite different, and they really hated Borat, but they were nice
Yeah.
people, um,
Yeah.
and that was
That's for
fun.
sure.
Yeah.
So, so you feel that like when you got there and you achieved these like things that you wanted to achieve, when you got there, it was not as you expected, and it was not like
Oh,
wow.
yeah, for sure. I mean, oh, it was pretty wow, and it's great to look back on at the time. But you're still sitting in like some shitty lorry for like 24 hours, or you're like eating raw eggs on the side for people, and like, um, yeah. I mean, I enjoyed like the pains and difficulties and stuff, but I don't know. It's same with like, I don't know, hiking. When you're hiking, you go for a few days, and most of the time it's like, oh, my feet hurt, oh, it's difficult, oh, I'm lost, oh, thing. But you look back at it, it's bloody great, and you see beautiful things, and
Yeah, that's why
you
people
just
do
you're just able to see the
marathon and
flaws when you're there, I guess. Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
I love running and marathons and things. That's something that I'm doing this year, was like loads and loads of running. I've been signing up for ultra marathons and stuff, and oh, I don't know. I don't like to talk about myself too much. On like,
It's the same thing. What you
yeah,
just described is like when you're doing a marathon, it's not fun. That's for sure. But when you accomplish it, you say, "Yeah, I've
yeah.
done this
I
marathon."
I don't know. Maybe I'm just going to be annoying and like now oppose that statement in
Yeah.
terms of, I think you start to like enjoy those things. Like I was saying earlier with like success, is in when things are going wrong, you kind of actually able to acknowledge that's part of the path and enjoy it. And the same with like, I like running and being kind of under pain and stress now these days. Whereas like when I was a kid, I was like, this is nuts. Didn't like it. And in the same way, like from traveling, I've had things go. I mean, I was arrested for no reason when I was in Paraguay once, and ended up getting out like after half a day of being in jail, and like I think I was going to get raped and stuff, and it was pretty stressful. But like since then, I don't. It was just like a really interesting thing where I had no idea how I was going to get out of it, but like I did, and it felt like I'd sort of just jumped off like a 10-story building, hit the floor, and then just bounced, and like everything was fine. It was like, oh, that was weird. Anyway, life, carry on. And when things are going that nuts wrong, it's sort of like I now have a bit more of a feeling like I don't even know how this is going to work out, but it will. So I'm kind of looking forward to where the story goes, and it's sort of like more exciting and enjoyable as opposed to being like, oh god, I don't know what to do, I'm stressed, panic, and it's quite
Yeah.
nice to enjoy those things when you're in those moments when you realize, hey, this is probably going to be a story. This is like an exciting moment and something that's exciting, and you just feel the excitement, and it does
Yeah.
change your perception of like pain and stress and things. Uh, Hopefully that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah, it does. I wrote a book called Innovating Through Chaos, and I talk about
Hmm.
this state of chaos. I come from Israel, and we have lots of these states which are unknown, unfamiliar,
Yes.
and you get to it, and you don't know how you got there and how you're going to get out of it. And I think that this is one of the reasons that we have so many entrepreneurs, because we're so used to being in these unfamiliar, unknown, chaotic situations. because
Mm.
it makes you sometimes a bit less stressed about the unknown and about changes. And in order to be innovative and creative, you need to feel a bit like at ease with these situations. So this is exactly what you're describing right now, right?
Yeah,
It's like
definitely.
being at ease with that. So what is the most surprising thing you learned about growth mindset after so many years of podcasting about it?
I guess when I started it, with this conversation as well, it sort of sounds like a growth mindset is like the ultimate one of the mindsets you can kind of learn everything else. And if you do have a growth mindset attitude, it certainly does give you the opportunity to like grow in every other sort of mindset. But I do think there's oh no, I'm going to completely forget what it is. The most important thing I've apparently learned, and I can't even remember it. Great. Uh, where am I going? So there's like the basically sort of fixed versus open mindset, which is quite similar. It took me a while to like get the nuance of it, but when you are sort of, I don't know, closed versus open, because it's fixed versus growth. Jesus, I mean, I only talk about this how much? I don't know. But yeah, when you have like closed mindset, it's where you sort of think you are good at stuff, or you're just not open to other people's feedback. So you can still have a growth mindset around many things like, okay, I've learned these scales. I'm good at piano. Like challenge yourself in new ways to get better in these things, and just be like a really smart person that's great at coding and stuff. But you can still have a closed mindset towards other people's opinions, and it's the way that you value others. And it's very important that you are very open to the value of other people. So, because you can still be a growth mindset within yourself, but without understanding the value of other people. And so, if you don't value others, you're never really going to truly grow in every way. So, it's definitely being a bit more humble about your own stuff, because you can have a growth mindset and think that you're the most amazing person in the world, and constantly be improving at some things, but not everything or in the ways that you could be. And it is a hard one for intelligent people, actually, because you can often be used to like getting good at things quite quickly and maybe being better than others, or like I'm dyslexic, so I don't learn in the same way as others as well. So I didn't find school so good. I kind of often just like ignored teachers telling me how to do things, because I just knew that I could work it out myself, and that they'd be telling me in a way that I wouldn't even understand. And like so you kind of actually almost learn against like the open mindset of other people's value, um and so you are missing out on like all opportunities, well,
Yeah.
on some of the opportunities for both, not obviously not all. So yeah, having like the open mindset and actually really understanding that other people are people, and that there's different ways to grow besides just like internally, like you can grow by helping others grow, and that like all that stuff kind of comes back to you. And just having less of an ego and being humble uh, isn't necessarily just part of the growth mindset. It's part of like other ones. So
Yeah. It
yes.
reminds me of things that are said about meditation and mindfulness,
Mm,
that in many cases you could master being calm when you're closed in the room and you
yeah.
have this calm music, and then you go outside and somebody cuts you in the road or something, and then you're
Yeah. Yeah.
insanely crazy, and that's it. You like it works only when you're in the lab within your room,
Yeah,
and then somebody
definitely.
makes you mad, and that's the real challenge, to take what you learned and to do something in the world. And in the world, we need to interact with people, we need to learn from them, we need to collaborate with them, we need to be better with them, and we don't have any other way. We could try to do it like we know ourselves, and we're very good at managing our own beliefs and our own
Mm,
thoughts and our own emotions. But in the end, we're going outside, and then everything happens, and that's
yeah.
the real thing, right?
Yeah, definitely. It was like I did like the meditation sort of 10-day thing, and like it was hilarious. Like I took a cab afterwards with this girl to this place, and then like the guy like took us on like a long we sort of wasted like an hour of our time and trying to charge us more. And she was going freaking nuts. And like, we just spent 10 days talking about like why we should never get angry, that it's fine. And I felt like I did a good job of being like, it's okay. I mean, we can get out and walk. This guy's just trying to make some money. He's a nice guy. And it's not his fault. He's probably lost as well. We've taken him like on a 4-hour journey to somewhere he's never been. Like, it's okay. We've got all the rest of the day. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And yeah, you're like, how have you spent 10 days and completely like already forgotten all the concepts? And
Yeah.
I think that's something I remember from when I studied biology and you look at all these sort of things that are written down and there's like these perfect diagrams of what like a cell looks like or like a vessel or something. And then you get like the real thing. It's just like chaos everywhere. And you're like, what the hell? The real world is not at all like what the textbook says. I mean, how am I supposed to find this thing in this petri dish? Like, it's nuts. And people write books about mindsets and it's all very clear cut and you get these like nice parables of how it's all obvious, how you can like step in and be the perfect thing. And then reality it's so different it's so annoying when you read books where like they give you these conversations around someone comes in as a great lead and they say X and this person responds so differently because you said X and it's brilliant and you're always going to like be a person like this, but then you can do that and then the person just responds completely differently, throws it back and you're like, oh, I'm already lost, I don't know what to do. And it's hard. So,
it reminds me of a book that I read like a few months ago, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. Did you hear it?
Mark Manson.
It's a good book, and I think it talks about all these like self-improvement things, and in the end, if you want to be calm, you cannot try to be calm all the time because then you're not at ease because you're trying, and you're investing so much energy in something that it's like when you're very intense and somebody tells you calm down, calm. It never works, right?
Like, don't be angry. What? I'm not angry.
So it's the same thing. You're doing it to yourself, but it's the same thing when you're trying to accomplish something. And it's like a friend of mine, she had a meditation seminar and she was late. And she got so mad and intense, and she started shouting at her kids, "I'm gonna be late! I'm gonna be late!" I think it was like being quiet for 10 days or I know something like that. And it's the same thing, trying too much to do something.
Yeah,
for sure. So I want to thank you for your time, and I want to ask you, where could people hear more about you and your work and your startup and contact you?
Sure. So I run the Growth Mindset podcast, which we've spoken about a bit, and you can subscribe, listen to me there. And there's a website, growthmindsetpodcast.com. I also run Syncify. We are going through a name change, so it's going to be called Reason FM soon, but you should still be able to find us from Syncify, which is Syncify, Syncify. And then when it becomes Reason.fm, it'll be Reason, the word .fm, which might hopefully is easier. I'm not sure if we've made it worse or better for ourselves, but we're doing it anyway. So you can sign up there. It's a social podcast app where you can listen to podcasts and make friends with other people. You can follow me and you can talk about podcasts and ask questions about growth, talk to the people who own the podcast, talk to the guests on the podcast and stuff, and just be more social around it, which is really enjoyable. I'm having fun there. So if you join me there, then you can have fun with me.
I have a friend and we have this like a book club of podcasts. So I'm sending her episodes and we're talking about it afterwards. So I think it's more or less, it's like a book club.
That's what we kind of built it for us, and pod clubs, whatever, if you want to say. So you should join the app already.
I did.
All right.
It's really fun.
Yeah, finding you. Sweet. Good.
Great. So I want to thank you for your time. It's been such a pleasure, and thank you, Sam, for your time.
No worries.
Sure.
Thank you.
And to all of you change makers out there, thank you for joining us. And if you want to learn more about what I do, go to invincibleinnovation.com, and I'll see you next week with another insightful, fun talk. See ya.